"I speak 9 languages," said the son of the black cleaning lady. The Arab millionaire laughed, then froze in shock. "Ha ha! 9 languages!" Hassan al-Mansouri's laughter rolled through the Manhattan penthouse office like a predator savoring its prey. "Kid, you can barely speak English." David Johnson, just 14, stood in the lavish office with a worn public school backpack. His gaze was steady, even as humiliation burned his cheeks. Beside him, his mother, Grace Johnson, 42, clutched the cleaning bucket, trembling. She knew bringing her son here might be a grave mistake. Hassan al-Mansouri, 48, oil tycoon and ruler of a $3.5 billion empire, was having the most amusement he'd felt in weeks. This black kid, son of his cleaning lady, claimed to speak 9 languages when Hassan doubted he could even read a whole book in English. "David, please apologize to Mr. al-Mansouri," Grace whispered. Her voice weighed down by years of submission and the fear of losing the job that supported her 2 children alone. "No need to apologize," Hassan said, savoring the moment. "I want to hear more of this fantasy." "Tell me, boy wonder, what are these 9 languages you speak?" David inhaled deeply. By 14, he already knew the world judged him and his mother before knowing them. Son of a cleaning lady, black, Bronx resident, labels men like Hassan used to justify their contempt. English, Spanish, French, German, Arabic, Mandarin, Russian, Italian, and Portuguese, David said calmly, each word so precise it paused Hassan's laughter for a moment. "Liar!" Hassan snapped, returning to his Italian marble desk. "Grace, your son has serious fantasy issues. Maybe a psychiatrist would help more than bringing him here." Grace lowered her head, familiar humiliation pressing down. For 5 years, she had scrubbed this office, endured insults, accepted low wages, everything to keep this job. But seeing her bright, determined son ridiculed like this cut deeper than any insult she'd endured. "Mom," David said softly, touching her arm. "It's okay." Hassan observed the scene with a cruel grin. He loved moments of total power, reminding people of their place in the social ladder. His empire was built not just on business skill, but on a cruelty that crushed anyone who questioned him. "You know what I think, Grace?" Hassan leaned back in his $15,000 leather chair. "Your son is jealous of my executive's children who attend fancy private schools. He spins these fantasies to feel special." "Sir," David interrupted, calm yet dignified, catching Hassan off guard. "Do you speak Arabic?" "Of course I do. It's my native language." "Then you would understand if I said al-haqiqa." Silence. Hassan froze, processing the classical Arabic phrase. This wasn't tourist Arabic. It was advanced, precise, perfectly pronounced. Grace looked between her son and Hassan, sensing a shift in the air, though she didn't understand the words. Where did you learn that?" Hassan asked, genuinely puzzled. David's first smile appeared. "At the public library, sir. They have free language programs every afternoon." A strange feeling stirred in Hassan, a mix of surprise and something dangerously close to respect. No, he dismissed it. "Just a kid memorizing phrases." "That doesn't mean you speak the language," Hassan said, trying to regain control. "You're right, sir," David replied. "That's why I brought this." He opened his backpack, revealing a document that made Hassan choke, an official certificate of proficiency in multiple languages from Columbia University, showing fluency in all 9. Hassan stammered, his confidence shaken. David pulled out more papers, certificates from the Advanced Linguistics program at the Municipal Library and an online simultaneous translation course completed last month. Every stamp and signature authentic. This 14-year-old son of his cleaning lady had an education rivaling professional diplomats. "How?" Hassan whispered. What he didn't know. David Johnson held a secret far greater than speaking 9 languages, one that could shatter everything Hassan thought he knew about intelligence. Merit and human value. David had not appeared by chance. Months of planning and gathering information led to this moment. A demonstration that would change Hassan's perception and reveal a truth about himself he had never considered. Hassan examined the certificates, searching desperately for a forgery. No luck. The signatures were genuine, stamps official, dates consistent with a 3-year academic track. "That still doesn't prove anything," he muttered. Anyone can take online courses. You're right, David said evenly. That's why I brought this. From his backpack, David pulled a tablet, opened a video chat, and within seconds, an Asian woman appeared in an academic office. Professor Chin, David said in flawless Mandarin, could you confirm to Mr. Al-Mansouri my performance in your business translation course? The professor responded fluently. Hassan didn't understand, but the natural flow, complex grammar, and ease of switching registers left him stunned. Switching to English, the professor confirmed, David has been my best student in 15 years. At 14, he is fluent in Mandarin like a native of Beijing. He is extraordinary, Hassan ended the call, hands trembling. Grace, did you know this? She shook her head, still processing. David has always been smart, sir, but I didn't know. I started when I was 11, David explained gently. Mom worked 2 jobs to pay for private school, but she lost the second during the pandemic. Public school classes were too easy, so I used my free time wisely. Hassan felt a knot in his stomach. While his own children attended expensive schools with private tutors, this boy had surpassed all that with only public libraries and determination. But why languages? Hassan asked, curious for the first time. Because I wanted to understand the world, David said simply. And when you speak to people in their language, they stop seeing you as a stranger and start seeing you as a human. Hassan felt hit by a punch. For years, he had used his Arab background to distance himself from American employees, masking arrogance as cultural difference. David, Hassan said slowly, you're 14. That's impossible, David smiled. The impossible is just the possible that hasn't happened yet. Hassan turned to Grace for the first time in 5 years. He saw a woman who had raised a genius through menial work and sacrifice. David, Hassan said, his tone shifting. Why are you here today? Your mother could lose, David exchanged a quick glance with Grace, who gave a barely perceptible nod. Because I heard you on the phone yesterday, David said calmly. You were discussing a contract in Arabic with investors from the Middle East, but you made mistakes that could have cost millions. Hassan turned pale. What kinds of mistakes? You used Mubashir when you should have used for urgency, and confused Miraik with Miraib regarding deadlines. Small mistakes, but they completely changed the meaning. Hassan sank into his chair. During the call, he had noticed the investors' confusion, but chalked it up to connection problems. In reality, his language errors had nearly ruined a $50 million deal. How did you know I was making mistakes? He asked. I've been studying business Arabic for 2 years, David replied. It's my specialty. Hassan looked at him with newfound respect. At 14, this kid was already an expert in international business communication. David, Hassan said slowly, you saved my business without me even knowing it. Actually, David said, pulling another document from his backpack, I did more than that. Hassan took the paper. A detailed proposal for restructuring the company's international communications, identifying linguistic flaws that had cost contracts, and offering specific solutions. You analyze my company? Hassan whispered. Just public communications, David clarified. Press releases, transcripts, online documents. I found patterns of mistakes explaining lost business. Hassan read it twice. It was brilliant, detailed, and potentially worth hundreds of millions in recovered contracts. Why did you do that? He asked, confused. David took a deep breath. To show that value isn't about inherited money. It's about what you contribute. Something inside Hassan cracked. He had long assumed success was inherited, that intelligence was a class privilege. This boy shattered that belief. Hassan al-Mansouri, David said, using his full name for the first time. Can I ask you something? Hassan nodded. If a kid like me can do this using public libraries, imagine what other young people could do with the opportunities your children have. The question hung in the air like a bomb. Hassan didn't know that this demonstration was only the warm-up. Hidden in David's backpack was a recording proving that Hassan had lost million-dollar contracts, not due to linguistic mistakes, but because of something far worse. And David was about to use it in a way that would shift the power in that office forever. As Hassan processed the question, David pulled one last item from his backpack, a small digital recorder that made the billionaire's blood run cold. "Before I answer your question," David said calmly, "I need to show you something." He pressed play. Hassan's unmistakable voice filled the office. "These black Americans are all the same. Lazy, uneducated, always blaming others for their failures. That's why I only hire Arabs and whites for important positions." Grace covered her mouth in horror. Hassan turned pale. Where did you record this?" "In the elevator last week," David said emotionlessly. "You were talking to your vice president about hiring policies. You didn't notice I was there." Hassan remembered perfectly, arguing with Robert Chun about why black employees weren't promoted to executive roles. He thought they were alone. That's illegal. You can't record private conversations. New York is a one-party consent state, David replied calmly. Completely legal. And considering this document's systematic racial discrimination, the Labor Department would be very interested. Hassan felt the world spinning. A recording like this could destroy his company, spark multi-million-dollar lawsuits, and ruin his reputation. "What do you want?" he whispered. David smiled, but not a child's smile. The kind of smile that meant every move had been planned. "I want you to choose," David said, walking over to Hassan's desk. "You can continue believing people like me and my mother are inferior, and this recording goes to every journalist and labor lawyer in New York." Hassan swallowed hard. "Or," David continued, "you can prove you've learned something today. Promote my mother to facility supervisor with a salary of $80,000. Create a scholarship program for disadvantaged youth, and hire me as a junior language consultant." "You're 14 years old," Hassan protested. "And I speak 9 languages better than any adult you know," David retorted. "Besides, I already saved your company millions." Hassan glanced at Grace, who remained silent, but her eyes shone with pride and dignity he had never noticed. "Grace," Hassan said, his voice trembling, "you've raised a genius." "I've raised a man," Grace replied firmly. "A man who knows his worth and won't be treated as less." David produced a contract from his backpack. "I've prepared the terms. 5 minutes to decide before this recording goes public." Hassan took the contract, trembling. It was professional, detailed, and protected both David and Grace from retaliation. The boy had thought of everything. "How do I know you won't release the recording even if I sign?" Hassan asked. "Because unlike you," David said, meeting Hassan's gaze, "I believe in second chances for those who genuinely want to change." Hassan reread the contract. The demands were fair, even conservative, given David's value. But signing meant admitting he had been wrong. "What if I don't sign?" Hassan asked, already knowing the answer. David pulled out his phone. "Then this recording goes to the New York Times, CNN, and the Attorney General in exactly—" He checked his watch. 3 minutes and 40 seconds. "You're blackmailing me," Hassan said. "I'm offering justice," David corrected. "You've benefited from an unjust system for years. Now you can be part of the solution." Hassan looked out over Manhattan, the city he had conquered through intelligence and cruelty. This kid had outdone him at both. "Grace," Hassan asked softly, "do you accept the promotion?" Grace glanced at David, who nodded. "I accept, sir." Hassan picked up a solid gold pen and signed. "David Johnson," he said, "you've taught me the most expensive and valuable lesson of my life." "What lesson?" David asked. "That true intelligence isn't about birth or wealth, it's about what you do with opportunities." David put away the recorder and extended his hand. "Welcome to the 21st century, Mr. Al-Mansouri." Hassan shook it. Realizing this was more than a contract, he was agreeing to see the world differently. Then David pulled 2 more recorders from his backpack. "For your information," he said casually, "everything today was recorded, including you signing this contract willingly." Hassan laughed. Not cruelly, but with genuine admiration. "You're frighteningly smart, kid." "No," David smiled. "I just prepared better." Hassan thought he had learned his biggest lesson. But David had one last revelation, a secret about Hassan's past that would redefine everything the billionaire thought he knew about merit and his own origins. 6 months later, Hassan sat at a round table in the Bronx Public Library, surrounded by youth in the scholarship program David had demanded. The man who once mocked public libraries now saw them as centers of excellence. "Is it true David got his first job at 14 by blackmailing you?" asked Maria, a 15-year-old Latina. Hassan laughed genuinely. "Yes, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me." David, now 15 and the youngest language consultant in American corporate history, watched from his desk, reviewing international contracts worth millions. His corrections had already generated $200 million in new business. "Tell the whole story," Maria urged. Hassan looked at Grace, now a respected executive in elegant suits. She smiled, encouraging him. "6 months ago, I was a rich but miserable man," Hassan began. "I thought money made me superior. David taught me real intelligence isn't about birth, it's about using opportunities wisely." "How did he know it would work?" asked Carlos, 13, now studying programming through the program. David looked up. "I researched Hassan for months. I learned he arrived from Lebanon at 16, poor and almost Englishless, and built his empire from scratch. He had forgotten his own origins and became exactly the person who discriminated against me when I was young. Now our company is the most diverse in the industry?" Maria asked. Grace smiled proudly. "We hire talent based on competence, not last name or zip code." Hassan walked to a wall displaying certificates of the first 50 scholarship beneficiaries. "The greatest discovery I've ever made?" "What?" they asked. "That when you invest in talent, regardless of background, they don't just grow, they make you grow too." David closed his laptop and joined the group. Hassan had all the opportunities, yet nearly wasted the greatest one, the chance to be a decent person. "And you?" Carlos asked David. "Weren't you afraid of failing?" "Of course," David admitted. "But my mother taught me the biggest failure is accepting to be treated as less. I preferred to risk everything rather than remain invisible." Hassan looked at David with admiration. Speaking 9 languages or analyzing his company was impressive, but the courage to confront a powerful man, knowing it could endanger his family, was extraordinary. "But you had a plan, right?" Maria asked. David smiled. "Always have a plan. Always have evidence." Grace stood. "Time to go, David. We have a meeting with Japanese investors in an hour." Hassan turned to the youth. "Want to know the best part? David now earns more than I did at his age, not by inheritance, but merit." As they walked to the Mercedes Grace now drove as an executive, Hassan reflected on his transformation. "David," he said, "I have a confession." "What is it?" "You didn't just save my company, you saved my soul." David stopped. "What do you mean?" "I was becoming a monster. Rich, powerful, empty inside. You forced me to remember true success is lifting others, not tearing them down." Grace kissed David's forehead. "I'm proud of you, baby. Not for money, but for the man you're becoming." "I'm honored to learn from both of you," Hassan added. "Family isn't about blood. It's about people who make you want to be better." That afternoon, during negotiations with Japanese investors, David translated a deal worth $500 million. Hassan remembered the day he mocked the same boy. Afterward, a Forbes reporter asked, "Mr. Al-Mansouri, how does it feel to have a 15-year-old advisor?" "I finally understand leadership," Hassan said. "It's not being the smartest in the room. It's recognizing and nurturing the intelligence of others." "And you, David, advice for young people?" "Never let anyone define your worth by appearance or circumstance. Origins don't determine destiny. Always have evidence to back your claims. Do you believe this can inspire others?" the journalist asked. Grace replied, "When talent meets opportunity and courage meets preparation, anything is possible." Hassan nodded. "David taught me true wealth isn't what you accumulate, but what you build. The smartest investment is human potential. David's story proves intelligence knows no color, class, or age." Hassan tried to humiliate those he considered inferior, but learned the real power lies in prepared, brilliant minds. And sometimes, the greatest lesson comes from the least expected place.